You need to know this. It looks like the GOP is taking some handy advice behind closed doors on how to stop President Obama's climate change agenda. And guess who they're receiving that advice from? Energy industry lobbyists. Republican staffers from both the House Energy Committee, chaired by Fred Upton, and the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee staged an invitation-only meeting with top energy special interests. Among those reportedly in attendance, the American Petroleum Institute, the National Mining Association, the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, and, of course, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. According to Politico, Republican staffers told these big energy lobbyists, quote, "We need your help to get this done," end quote. Apparently, after the meeting, these Republican staffers were confident that they're going to get the help they need. And just like clockwork, Chairman Fred Upton, Congressman Fred Upton, is expected to introduce legislation next week to strip the Environmental Protection Agency of its authority to regulate greenhouse gases under the Clean Air Act. And Republican John Barrasso will go even farther, proposing a bill to preempt any federal agency from regulating greenhouse gases until Congress gives approval first. That's a great idea. Check out this graph showing carbon in our atmosphere. A steady climb nearly every single year. Now check out this graph showing the profits of big oil companies. Also a steady climb. It's pretty simple what's going on here. These transnational oil corporations are willing to destroy the world for profits. And the GOP, right out in the lead on their behalf. But there's a bigger picture here. Check out what David Koch said about carbon regulation.
I think it's regulating CO2 excessively is going to really damage the economy. The climate does fluctuate. It goes from hot to cold. We have ice ages.
But do you believe carbon pollution?
Lee, you've had the questions. Lee.
Now here's what put these guys into power. It was a decision called Citizens United in the U.S. Supreme Court. The Citizens United case happened a year ago tomorrow in the U.S. Supreme Court. And in this case, well, let me get to the details of that in just a second, but here's what's been the consequence of this. This is from the Center for Responsive Politics. In the year 2002, $27 million roughly was spent in the midterm elections. We're taking out the presidential elections here. They tend to produce huge bulges. 2006, it went up to $68 million. That's still a lot. But then, in the beginning of the year, January of 2010, the Supreme Court ruled that corporations and billionaires using corporations as their fronts could put unlimited amounts of money into the political process. And look at what happened. We went from $68 million to $200, almost $300 million. And this $27 million and the $68 million, we knew where this money came from because the law required that disclosure. Now, there's no disclosure requirement. This is the consequence of the Citizens United decision. This is what has been going on in the United States. And it's genuinely a disaster. People say there's no difference between the two parties, right? Oh, it's just twiddle-dum, twiddle-dee. Sorry, the GOP's first agenda was to benefit health insurance industry CEOs. Let's do away with Obamacare. That says that 80% of the money that health insurance companies take in has to actually be spent on health care? Heaven forbid. How can a good insurance industry CEO make $100 million a year? Anyhow, the second thing that they did, benefit the big polluters. This is what we're seeing now. Is let's blow away the carbon dioxide reservoir. This is what Fred Upton says he's going to do. This is the big mantra. Stop the EPA from regulating carbon dioxide. After all, the whole global warming thing is a hoax, don't you know? This, by the way, has happened before. There's this whole confluence of big oil having big power on our government. In 2001, January 2001, when George W. Bush and Dick Cheney became president and vice president, thanks to the Supreme Court, Dick Cheney was given two jobs. He was to chair the Energy Task Force, and he was to chair the Anti-Terrorism Task Force. Now, the Anti-Terrorism Task Force didn't even bother to meet until September of 2001, just a couple of weeks before 9/11. They didn't even bother, a whole year went by and Dick Cheney did nothing about terrorism. But within a month and a half, He was having a closed-door meeting inside the executive offices with oil industry executives to do this. Now, this is a lawsuit that came out of Judicial Watch, which is a right-wing think tank down in Florida. And they sued Dick Cheney under the FOIA laws, the Freedom of Information laws. And what they found was that in March of 2001, this is Iran over here. This is Iraq. Here's Turkey up here. What they were doing is they were dividing Iraq, the oil fields. This is the oil fields of Iraq. They were dividing them into sections, Saudi Arabia down here, and they came up with a list of countries that they would sell the oil to and companies within those countries that they would sell the oil to. This is what Dick Cheney was doing in March. This was 6 months before 9/11. They were dividing up the oil in Iraq. Now, what's going on here? Bernie Sanders understood what was going on.
There is a war going on in this country, and I'm not referring to the war in Iraq or the war in Afghanistan. I'm talking about a war being waged by some of the wealthiest and most powerful people in this country against the working families of the United States of America, against the disappearing and shrinking middle class of our country. They want to rescind or slow down many of the provisions, the very modest provisions in the financial reform bill. I voted for the financial reform bill, but I will tell you clearly it did not go anywhere near far enough, but it went too far for our Wall Street friends and their lobbyists who are all over here. These people want to cut back on the powers of the EPA and the Department of Energy so that ExxonMobil can remain the most profitable corporation in world history, while oil and coal companies continue to pollute our air and our water. Last year, ExxonMobil made $19 billion in profit. Guess what? They paid zero in taxes. They got a $156 million refund from the IRS. I guess that's not good enough. We've got to give the oil companies even more tax breaks.
And that's it. That's it. The Bush administration was all about, originally it was Operation Iraqi Liberation. That was the original name for it. And it leaked out, the war in Iraq that Dick Cheney had been planning back in March of 2001. And it leaked out, and they were quite proud of it. Yes, Operation Iraqi Liberation, until somebody put it together, O-I-L. Oh, yeah, that doesn't work so well. So anyhow, what's going on here? Here's the difference between the U.S. and China. China's eating our lunch economically. Why? Because they're looking at what's the best thing for their economy. And we've got a bunch of politicians who are making decisions based on who's buying them, who's putting the most money into campaign contributions because of Citizens United, which we're going to talk about more tonight. The bottom line here, China thinking about the next 1,000 years, our politicians thinking about their campaign contributors. The bottom line here is we need to outlaw money in politics.